Well, actually, in the unlocking of broader credit access to SMEs as well as for startups. Their vision really aligns to the 2063 agenda of the African Union. Without further ado, I'd like to call upon our next speaker, who is Mr. Alude Xuba, who's going to be sharing more on the intellectual property. Mr. Alude Xuba.
Good morning. Yeah, it's still morning. My name is Alude Xuba. I'm a practicing attorney here in South Africa, and I specialize amongst others in intellectual property law. Mine is quite simple, very straightforward, and I'm not here to lecture anyone, but it's just to give brief explanation and overview of our intellectual property regime and what laws apply or may be applicable to either of your businesses and your products and services. So we've got a very strong, always like that we've got a strong intellectual property law regime in South Africa. There's protection, of course, there's room for enhancement, but of course there's always gaps here and there. For instance, AI has come in and disrupted quite a lot of things. But maybe let me just mention a few, not a few, but what intellectual properties we have in South Africa, or classifications. We've got 5 in the main. Those would be trademarks, copyrights, patents, designs, plant breeders' rights for those who are farmers, and it's a debate whether it falls under intellectual property, but I say it is trade secrets. So what are trademarks really? A trademark is what sets you apart as a business, what distinguishes your product or service from another or from your competitors. Very important to have it. I always make an example about KFC. If the KFC, the red colors are not there, or the 3-4 letters are not in red, would you still say it's KFC? Or if I wake up tomorrow morning, I stand up and say I'm opening a chicken business, and then I call it AXT or ABC. What does it do? Does it not confuse? Does it not create confusion? It will create confusion, and that or deception. That on its own is a test or a cause for trademark infringement. So that's how a trademark is recognized. And it's a very, very important thing for a business to have a trademark, to have a trademark registered. In South Africa, how long does a trademark registration last? 10 years, and then you can always renew it for subsequent 10 years indefinitely. Then come to copyright. Just before I go to copyright, for trademarks, so it would apply in respect of goods or services, and it could either be a mark or a name or a logo, whatever that just recognizes you. So whenever you see like TM, you must know it's a registered trademark. And I know some people normally just put up the TM, even though it's not registered. That's not really allowed. And registration is quite a very straightforward, simple process. You go to the CIPC directly, or the CIPC is the company registrar or your company intellectual property commission. You could go to them directly or through an agent for that. But now, I always say it's very easy to register a trademark. Anyone can do it. But now, to commercialize it is something else. How do you make money out of that registered trademark? How do you make sure that commercialized trademark is protected? How do you protect it? In reality, when we say a company you're buying a company, in fact, you're really buying the name. It's the name that you're buying besides anything else, besides its assets or anything else. Because without the name that has built a goodwill or reputation over the years, then there's not much of a value in that. It's very, very important, even in contracts that you sign. I know people always very quick to sign an agreement and just look away that intellectual property clause, which is normally drafted very, very legalese and very strongly. But in a matter of 2 or 3 sentences, and you just bypass it. That's very, very important. And very often lawyers will use tricky words like transfer irrevocably, perpetually, you know? Basically now giving away your life or your trademark forever. And you can't take it back because you've said it's irrevocable. So yeah, that's the trademark aspect of it. And then we've got copyright. Copyright really, you don't register copyright. The moment you do it vests in you, it subsists in you. Unless we are talking about a film production or we are talking about a computer-generated works like a system or a software or something like that. But something like a script for a movie or a song, you don't really register that. The moment you reduce it to writing, it ceases to be an idea. And importantly, you can't register an idea. I always get inquiries, can I register this idea? Can I protect this idea? No, you can't protect an idea. It's an idea. It must be tangible or it must be in a written form as form of somewhat proof to show that you're the first one to have come up with it. So there's different types really for copyright, but I think for purposes here, I've seen some people in software development technology, computer-generated works. We can also patent those. And then we move to patents. Patents, which is basically your innovations, things that you've come up with, but there has to be novelty, sorry. Must be very novel to say, I'm the only one who's come up with this. And it must really sort of solve something. Not just you waking up, creating something that's unique. But it must be novel and be responsive to something. Very often it needs to have scientific and mathematical elements to it. Then that's a patent, you can register that. It goes on for about 20 years of registration with it. Same thing you register with the CIPC, Company Intellectual Property Commission. And then we move to designs. Designs, there's 2 types of designs. Aesthetic designs and functional designs. So aesthetic designs, it's really how it looks. So it would be how, I want us to make an example about the outfit Madame Davo is wearing there. How does it look? It's the look of it, as opposed to the as opposed to the function now. The functional design would be how does it work? So those would typically be machines, systems like that. But things like patterns, drawings, and things like that would fall under designs. Design is registrable or lasts for about 20 years. And then trade secrets, it's really secrets that are between parties in business. And those are not really registrable, but they're protected by virtue of the agreement that you get into. So a typical example of that would be a non-disclosure and confidentiality agreement that you sign when you're about to enter into business, or any clause of that to that effect that is in any agreement that you enter into. So it can be forever, it can be for 2 years, it can be for 5 years, it's really up to you. So really in South Africa, and then plant breeders' rights. Now, all these things, how long does it take to really register them? In reality, it takes between, on minimum, for instance, a trademark, for it to be fully registered with the CIPC, it takes about 18 months, because there's a various process. It must be publicized for people to comment or object to its publication. And there must be a conflict check to see if there's been any registration of a similar mark before by anyone. So really, it takes about 18 months to 24 months to have it fully in your name. Patent, same thing, about 18 to 24 months, because really the process is to make sure that there's no conflict. It's conflict with the other party, conflict with the relevant laws, and yeah, that's really the intellectual property regime in South Africa. And of course, South Africa is a signatory to international treaties, belongs to the World Intellectual Property Organization, and just forgot the Africa one. So what you register in South Africa finds protection globally, and what you register in South Africa could find protection in various African jurisdictions. Yeah, that's really intellectual property in South Africa in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donc là, une présentation sur de la propriété intellectuelle en Afrique du Sud, avec les différents types les différents aspects de l'enregistrement, de la protection et de l'utilisation de la propriété intellectuelle en ce qui concerne toutes les disciplines créatives et la gestion des marques. Nous allons maintenant appeler la prochaine intervenante.